Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Big Rican on Sports presents the Wise Guys Sports Show here on the Big Rican on Sports podcast. I am your host. I am the Big Rican, and with me as always is my co-host, JC Blue Note himself. Jim, it's been a few weeks. We said we're going to do this once a month. We're 2 for 2. We found time in November.
We're like Baker. We're consistent.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
How you doing, my friend?
I'm very good. It's the end of a long week. I got one more week, and then I'm off until December 1st. Which
Vacation,
I will spend.
What's that?
Well, I get 5 weeks a year because I've been at my job for 16 years, and if I don't use it, I lose it. So, and they don't pay it out. So guess what? I'm gonna use it.
Yeah, I think I have 65 hours to get down to by my anniversary in the first week of February. And here's the caveat: once Black Friday hits, all vacation is locked out, so I can only take a half day here, half day there.
That's crap.
Yeah.
I always take Black Friday off because we're due 2 Saturdays in November we have to work. And of course, we know what the last Saturday in November is. And I don't miss that.
I don't have a thing with I don't actually have a thing with the vacation policy at work. It's just with working retail for my primary job. That's our busiest time of the year. So I can actually see where it makes sense.
Yeah, no, me too. And it's funny because the last time I worked Black Friday into Saturday that they played the game, because I had it was 2016, the 2 versus 3, when game day started at 7. My old district manager, who just retired, I asked my boss if I could work from 8 to 11 instead of 9 to 12, and he told me no. He's a big Clemson guy. He knows I'm a big Ohio State guy.
And that's why he said no. Yep.
No. My manager said that. His boss called him and said, let that man work 8 to 11. You don't want to be on his bad side if he misses kickoff. So I had game day on my phone in the car because it started at 7. I had game day all the way up to the office, a 45-minute ride. I had it on in the office because I was the only one there. I had it on the way home to where Corso's putting on Brutus's head as I'm pulling into my parking lot. I walk in the house, and my wife, who's awesome about this, she knows that's the one game a year that all bets are off. I walk in, there's a Christmas ale, and exactly, I had it sent to me.
That is one thing I never got into was Christmas ale.
Oh, dude. If you go out...
I tried it twice, and I never got into it.
Drop a Stoli vanilla in it.
I can't drink hard liquor.
You'll never know.
I get violently ill anything over the alcohol content of wine.
That's a whole different episode we need to have now. That's just, it's got to happen.
Hi, I'm JC Blue Note, and I have a problem. I can't do my liquor, let alone not hold it.
Yeah, I can't either anymore. I've gotten out of it, the whole married kids, whole nine. So
I'm drinking Arnold Palmer out of a pint glass. This should be filled with Great Lakes right now.
I have a Pepsi, okay?
You've been up since 2:45. You have an excuse.
That and I'm a caffeine junkie. But anyways, speaking of people who can't hold their constitution, let's dive into the CFP because those are a bunch of people who can't hold anything. The second rankings came out this past week. A shakeup in the top 4 with Michigan State's loss to Purdue, who now apparently everybody thinks Ohio State's on upset alert for Saturday. So just a quick recap. Georgia at 1, ESPN's own personal university at 2, Oregon at 3, and now the Buckeyes jump into the top 4, rounding out the field. So if the playoffs started today, it would be a Georgia-Ohio State matchup, which I think everybody would like to see. And Alabama would play against Oregon. Let me give you my issues with the CFP for right now. I know this is going to play itself out. I know the loser of it. I know when Georgia whoops Alabama in the SEC title game, Bama's going to be out as a 2-loss team.
Right.
I think Oregon is susceptible after losing to Stanford the way they did. I also think that Ohio State's going to run the table. And you're going to have listen, none of the teams in the Big Ten have the offensive firepower the Buckeyes have. Even you, who is not a Buckeye fan, can admit that. With the way Stroud has played. Yeah.
Go ahead.
With the way Stroud has played, the way Travion Henderson has really transcended the running back position at the school this year. I think they're going to run the table. I think Ohio State's going to end up being the 2 seed after beating, Purdue, who has the 2 best wins in the country, by the way, this weekend. You get Michigan State next week. You get the big one the weekend after, and then you get a Big Ten championship game against a probably top 15 Wisconsin. They go from having the best loss in the country to maybe the best resume in the country in the next 4 weeks.
Yeah, even a Buckeye hater like me cannot argue that. You've got 3 teams between Ohio State, Michigan State fighting for 1 spot, and only one of them's even got the most fathomable option of getting in right now, because Michigan and Michigan State's losses were in conference. Ohio State's was out of conference, but at this point, it's to an out-of-conference team. They may end up playing in that opening round game.
Which would be an interesting game because Thibodeau will be healthy. But at the same time, this will be a seasoned CJ Stroud. So that would be an interesting game. So let me give you my issue with the CFP, and then I know you've got a ton of stats there that you want to go through. Here's my issue. How do you put teams at 2 and 3 with losses to unranked teams? Ohio State lost to the number 3 team in the country. Listen, Oregon outplayed them that day. You and I didn't think it was going to happen that way. It did. The bottom line is Texas A&M, for where they are now, which is propped up because they're in the SEC, was unranked when they beat Alabama. And then Bama
started the year at 5. Let's not forget that they were 5, dropped out, and worked back in.
But that's just it. They dropped out because of bad losses. So you can't – and the thing that gets me is that it seems like unless you're in the SEC, the committee ignores how you got to where you were moving into when they do their rankings. For instance, Bama's at 2, but Ohio State took a beating in the press this week for having a hard time with Nebraska at times, for not putting them away.
Yeah.
Which warranted. Hard time for not putting away Penn State. Again, warranted. This is an Alabama team who needed stupidity and pulling away in the 4th quarter to beat Tennessee. This is an Alabama team that held on against a 4-loss LSU team whose coach is hanging out in the men's club with Urban Meyer. I'm sick of him if I'm taking shots at him.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the most dynamic defense.
Let's also forget the one thing. Me as a diehard fan going back to when we were in high school, Alabama skating by the skin of their teeth over a team who honestly should have left their coach in South Carolina this weekend.
Dan Mullen's got to go. Dan Mullen's got to go. So
I wrote about this last week with Dan Mullen. Think of the last time, each time that Florida's tried to use the 2-quarterback system, kind of getting off topic here, they did it with Werfel and Terry Dean when Spurrier was there. Herb did it with Tebow and Chris Leak, and
that won a national championship.
It did. And Florida during Spurrier's tenure with Werfel and Terry Dean, that's when Florida really started to recapture some of their glory from the Emmitt Smith days where they were middle of the pack. That's where Florida started to make their ascension. But you notice the problem with Mullen trying to do it now is he's trying to do it with 2 mobile quarterbacks as opposed to 1 runner, 1 thrower.
Yeah, he doesn't have a pocket passer, which unfortunately I think you need to do that multi-quarterback thing. The beautiful thing is if Ryan Day wanted to do it, he's got a pocket passer in CJ Stroud.
Yes, he does.
He's got the mobile guy. He don't want to run. Did you see what he said? He said, they pay me to throw the football.
Right. Which is actually what the problem for Ohio State's been I think, the last few years is trying to actually, if you're in the Big Ten and you're a quarterback, you've got to have a pocket presence. Ohio State, in really some of the more recent years under Herb, didn't have that because he was trying
No.
to boat race teams like he was down in the SEC, where everyone played in nice weather, half the teams played on turf, and you can actually gain 500 yards a game. You can't do that in the Big Ten.
You can if you have a running game. You can't if you can't run the football. Now, one thing I will say is that the quarterbacks Ryan Day has coached, excluding J.T. Barrett, who was Urban's boy, Haskins was a pocket passer. I think Fields is showing us that he's a pocket passer who can do the other things. C.J. Stroud, I believe, is going to do the same thing. So Day has brought in that kind of, I hate to use this analogy, he's brought in guys who could be compared to Big Ben. And Big Ben wasn't, needing to do jail time and 104 years old. All due respect, he's from Findlay, so that's one thing. The second thing
still
is
not going to get
no. But you know the comparison I'm trying to make. He could stretch the play, he could move the pocket, he could scramble when he needed to. Wasn't easy to get down, and could make a throw down the field from the pocket if he needed to. Day's brought that.
Let's also remember Byron Leftwich was that same way until people figured him out. The difference, but at that point, it all really kind of comes down to where you are and what system you have around you. Leftwich never actually had that in Jacksonville and then became a journeyman. Pittsburgh always actually built their franchises right, and that's why Roethlisberger, as much as you and I hate it, is going to the Hall of Fame.
Agreed. We hate it for different reasons. Side note, my new district manager is from Pittsburgh.
Remember, my first job was working for a grocer in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, he hates the Steelers. He would rather root for the Browns. Exactly.
Good man.
He's got a Pitt College cardigan he wears around the office in his car. And he's more into the Penguins than he is anything else. Because he'd asked me if I was an Islanders fan, and I went, no, but I know somebody who is. You won't like him. And my manager's a Ranger fan.
I'm still to this day Tony Rizzo. We all remember Riz. He's still on the radio. I know. He started this thing with his partner Aaron Goldhammer a few years ago. I'm not a Hammer fan as well.
Go back to Denver.
With the exception of the fact that he's a Buckeye hater, so I kind of give him the respect anytime he's talking to Ohio State. Any other time, I got to turn him off. But they started this thing years ago where they call it Operation Rearrange. Anytime you go to a Walmart, Target, wherever, you find Steelers gear, you either put it behind the Browns gear or you take it to the other side of the store and put it behind something else it doesn't belong to.
I like it.
You hide it.
Put it in the bathroom.
No, you can't really. You couldn't really do that because then it would be considered shoplifting by you taking merchandise into the bathroom.
At least the terrible towels. Sometimes they don't have toilet paper in there.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. They have sinks. You can clean them up.
Exactly. Yeah. So, like I told you before, we're going to get sidetracked. So back to the playoff. So the 4 teams right now, you can make an argument for all 4 of them to be in the playoff. But the problem is people use the term eye test, and it bothers me. It bothers me because it seems like they're cheapening what teams are doing against the competition. For instance, Ohio State is on upset alert this weekend against a Purdue team that beat both Michigan State and Iowa when they were in the top 5. Do you know who Alabama's playing?
That I did not check, and Purdue's the only team in the nation who's got 2 wins over top 5 teams this year.
Alabama is playing New Mexico State, and Georgia is facing that FBS juggernaut Mercer.
This is actually and you're right. This is where the eye test and the scheduling comes into play because this is also the time of the year right before their rivalry games where the SEC always schedules their tune-up games late in the season as opposed to early like everybody else who actually has an IQ over 6 should do.
I agree, because now you have the number 3 seed in Oregon who's playing a Pac-12 schedule, and then Civil War is a rivalry game. Anything can happen. Not that I think it's going to,
Right.
but anything can happen. Then you have the number 4 seed who's got to run through the team with the 2 best wins in the country, a top 10 Michigan State and a top 10 Michigan to get to a conference championship game.
If the Buckeyes run out, again, I think I said it earlier, they deserve to be there. Punch their ticket. I will have no problem with it. Once they get to the playoff, yeah, I'm actually going to be back on. I'm going to be back on the anti-Ohio State bandwagon. I actually wouldn't have a problem with them getting in if they run out and earn it.
And I agree with you. Honestly, Mike, they're not in my top 4 right now. They're my 5.
They're not in. Yeah, they're not in mine either. Yeah.
But my top 4, I put what people have done on the field in front. I have Georgia at 1, Cincinnati at 2, Oklahoma at 3. And I have Oregon at 4 because outside of Purdue, who hasn't earned to get into the dance yet, they have the best win in the country. People say, oh, Georgia beat Clemson. Clemson is a shell of itself.
Yeah, Clemson's going to be lucky to get bowl eligible at this point.
Yeah, and, Bama has not beaten anybody. Oh, they played Miami the first week of the season. Where's Miami? Oh, unranked.
Right.
Under 500. So
playing
I don't even have
Christmas, playing on an ESPN Christmas week bowl if they get there.
Exactly. So I don't even have my favorite team in the top 4. I have an undefeated Cincinnati at number 2.
I've got Cincinnati in the 4 as well, but I think I've actually got them at 3. I'm running Georgia 1. I've actually got Oregon right now at 8-1, slotted 2, especially because of the win over Ohio State. I've got Oklahoma at 4 because, granted, the big win against Texas, and they're one of the only undefeated teams left in the country. But I think Cincinnati right now, as hot as they are right now, and the fact of if Cincinnati runs out, Houston's now in the top 15. And they've actually and Cincinnati's got to go through SMU, who would have beaten that same Houston ball club and potentially could meet up with them in a conference championship game. But yeah, Cincinnati, if they run out, they deserve to be there. I don't care if it's 4; they should be there.
I agree with you. And think about it this way: if Purdue doesn't win those 2 games, Cincinnati has the 2 best wins of the year.
Yes.
Along with Oregon's win at Ohio State. So let me ask you this question with the CFP. We know there's going to be expansion. We know they're examining how to do it. I have been a proponent for 8 for a few years because it only adds 1 more game because they're talking about safety of the players and the college players aren't used to playing this many games, and I get that.
Right.
But I'm a proponent of 8. And here's how I would set it up, and let me know what you think. You have the Power 5 champions, and you have to win to be seeded 1 through 5. So you have to win your conference. So the example I gave a few years ago when I did my live show in Columbus, when I went down to the game, it was the year before. So Georgia won the SEC, Clemson won the ACC, Ohio State had won the Big Ten that year, the 2-loss conference championship year. USC won the Pac-10, and Oklahoma had won the Big 12. So those 5 were the top 5. I took the best team from the group of 5, which was UCF that year. And then there were 2 at-larges. My 2 at-larges were Bama, who ended up in the championship that year, and Wisconsin, who when no one remembers when Ohio State beat them to win the Big Ten, was the last remaining undefeated team in the country.
Right. Correct.
So I had it like that. So in my opinion, the committee's only job, let them rank whatever the hell they want. The committee's only job at that point in time is seeding and picking the at-larges. And there are years when your 7 and 8 seed are going to be easy. Easy. This year, not so much. But that year, you had a UCF who was undefeated, and you had Alabama who was a top team, and you had a Wisconsin who only lost to a conference champion in a conference championship game. Not hard to pick. The first game the lower seeds go to the higher seeds campus. How would you like to see Saban have to go above Mason-Dixon in December?
I think we brought this up on the very, very first show, didn't we?
We did, but the Horseshoe would be an insane asylum.
Yeah, because let's also be honest, some of those stadiums, that's the last, Michigan, that's the last time that stadium is going to get used until the spring. How nuts would that be potentially?
Unless there's a concert graduation.
Yeah, but let's actually, you're not going to actually have, you're not going to have you're not going to host a concert. But again, how nuts would it be, to use your own analogy here, having Saban have to bring his team above Mason-Dixon to play in a stadium with 100,000 fans who are accustomed to freezing their butts off with a 12-degree wind chill in an open-ended stadium.
Please.
Bye-bye.
Saban, he'd have more hamstring pulls in that game than anybody ever. They wouldn't know what to do. They'd have to sit in ice baths for a month in order to get ready for that game.
Yeah, that is very, very true, because usually when you get those late season, games, and you have all these games happening down south, what's your biggest concern? Cramping up from the heat. What actually happens when you go the other way?
Pulls, tears, running the football.
I just got the text message you sent me an hour ago.
The hell?
It just showed up on my Chromebook randomly.
That's why I disconnected the phone from the Chromebook. As far as messages go, I can still unlock it by looking at it because I have the Pixel. But yeah, no, that's why I did that, because it would do that stuff too. So
I think it's actually because I opened the message, but I didn't actually mark it as read. So I actually had the contact history down there. But why it actually showed up now, I have no idea. Anyway.
So let's wrap up the college football thing, and let's talk about the games coming up this weekend. You have the sissy games in the SEC. You do have that big game in Columbus this weekend. I want to spend just a minute on that.
What's Cincinnati doing right now? Because they're playing South Florida right now, aren't they?
Very possible. Let me pull up ESPN real quick and get the scores.
They was like 7-7 in the third.
Yeah, and Cavs are up 19 in the third right now with 4:55 left.
Okay, good. Because some people were thinking, because of the fact that it was a Friday night game as opposed to like Saturday afternoon, it could potentially be a trap game.
It's 38-21 Cincinnati.
Okay. Next question.
So I'm going to pivot somewhere else. Never mind Ohio State. And I can't believe I just said that. Is Luke Fickell going to get the USC job?
I think it's actually very contingent as to how Cincinnati ends up this season. Remember, going back to UCF, Scott Frost took the Nebraska job after they ran the table. What happens if Cincinnati runs to the table but gets left out of the party? I think he goes. I think if they get in, he stays.
Well, Cincinnati's also joining a Power 5 in the next couple of years. Are they going to the Big 12?
They're going to the 12, yeah.
Listen, let me say this, and then I want to jump into this weekend with the Browns. I want to talk a little Odell.
Do we have to?
Just for a minute.
Okay.
I don't know.
Maybe a little bit more than maybe a little bit more than a minute.
I don't know if you've seen the meme, but I'll tell you about it in a minute.
Real quick, I know you wanted to pivot away from the Buckeyes, but let's think about this. Ohio State and Purdue. Name the last time that this game actually meant anything this late in the season.
Holy Buckeye.
I was just going to say, does Holy Buckeye ring a bell? Back when I was a Buckeye fan.
I got to tell you something. That was the 2002 season. I was back here.
Yes.
I had moved back here in 2000. So that was my third season home back in New York. I watched every game that they were on that year, and I don't know how I had hair then. That team was in a bunch of low-scoring shootout games, and that national championship game was insane. It was insanity.
That was very, very tough because my father was a diehard Miami fan, but naturally, you know, Buckeye fans and everything. It's you know, so it was like cheering for. It was very very weird watching that game because it was like him pulling for one of his two kids while both of his kids were in the living room watching
so
the
they did
game with him.
He was doing the Brady Quinn thing, Brady Quinn's sister thing, like that year at the Fiesta Bowl.
One of these days, I'm going to tell you the story about how my brother met Brady Quinn, and to this day, we still razz him. How he actually says that Brady Quinn was so cute. He just wanted to run up and pinch his cheeks.
That sounds like something Frankie would say.
Yeah.
So, and with Fickell going to the Big 12, I'm going to say this. If he finds a way to get in the playoff and then goes to the Big 12, and they will start slapping people, because if you play knockdown, drag out, beat him in the trenches football like Fickell wants to play, a former nose tackle, you're going to win some things. I'm going to go out on a limb and say guys like Mayan Williams would not have gone to Ohio State had Fickell had that program in a Power 5 already.
Right.
So I like where we're at with the CFP as far as what you and I are thinking, but I think they're going to end up going to 12 and do first-round buys for the first two teams.
Yeah, I mean, even if they expand it to 6, it's something.
Although
you're still going to have somebody shut out every year. I mean, we have the same problem in college basketball.
Yeah, but the difference is if you go to 12, you at least get all the conference champions in, and you can recognize that team that's the best out of the group of 5.
Yeah, this way you get your ACC in, you get your Conference USA, you get your AAC. You even get even expand it out a little bit and actually go to some of your smaller conferences like Sun Belt or add the WAC in, make it all inclusive, and then just actually have a couple of at-large bids.
Yeah,
like how March Madness does. You automatically win, you're in. Because let's also think of one thing, and I brought this up on my blog the other day. Think about this. College football is the only NCAA sanctioned sport where the NCAA does not give out the championship trophy.
College football is
at the 1A level, at least.
Yeah, college football is the only sport in this country that has multiple national champions that never won a conference.
Yes,
3 times since 1937, since the AP poll came into effect, 3 teams have won the national title without winning their conference. I would give you lots of props if you knew who they were.
You threw that completely out of left field, and
that's the point.
You didn't give me enough time to prepare. So it's hell, UCF has a claimed national championship when they went undefeated, and they didn't even get in the playoff.
I agree, but the 3 teams was the first year, and it was Minnesota was crowned national champion by the AP poll.
That was 37.
37. The other 2, Nick Saban's Alabama teams in 2011 and 2017.
Yeah, and let's also remember with both of those, at least he got his team to the conference championship game.
He did not. 11. He did not. No, LSU. That was the year LSU beat them in the swamp. And I know it's Death Valley, but in the swamp because it was a monsoon. And they beat them 6-3. That was the year.
That's right.
Yup. He's got 3 titles he didn't earn. Because if Ohio State would have been smart and taken the bowl ban, Fickell's year, Urban's 12-0 team goes and wins the Big Ten and smokes Notre Dame in the national championship game.
Yeah, it's as a Florida fan, I'm actually I'm going to disagree there, because it's actually giving Herb props after he actually jumped us to go to you.
Yeah, no, I got you. So solid takes on the CFP. Let's dive into the Cleveland Browns. A huge win in Cincinnati after, as what Baker called I'm going to say it, the bullshit. All week with Odell, and finally his release, and today his signing with the Los Angeles Rams. Let me ask you,
please bring this up with me. It's hang on one second. I'm stepping out of the shot for a moment.
Oh boy, here we go. Oh, that's right. You're putting on a Rams jersey. Oh, and can I tell you, you're the first person I thought of when Denzel took the pick 99 yards. And yes, I thought he was going to pull up blame at the 30.
I was going to say, if you saw my tweet, yep.
Your tweet, I was talking to you about it.
They don't call him hospital ward for nothing.
Jesus. Do you see he's like one of the top three rated DBs?
He's playing 2 weeks in a row. That actually gives him, what, we have to give him some kind of award now, don't we?
Yeah, it's called Let's Pick Mac Jones 3 times this weekend. So anyways, let's talk about Odell for just a minute, because did you see the meme where someone put Odell's dad over top of Tanya Harding and Cooper Kupp over top of Nancy Kerrigan?
Yes.
That was wonderful.
As a Rams fan, first, last, and only thing I'm going to say is that this is actually, if this gels between them, I don't care who you are, put the Rams name on the Lombardi Trophy. If it starts to go south and he starts to actually targeting, and he starts commanding 7-8 targets a game, this is going to turn out horrific, and it's going to set the franchise back for years. Because also keep in mind, the Rams don't have a first, second, or third round pick each of the next 3 years, and they are very, very close to being in cap hell.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you, and I will put this caveat on your thing about it gelling. Their O-line's got to come to play against Tampa, because they're going to try and boat race to Matthew Stafford.
Yeah.
So there's that. But I want to ask you, as a Rams fan, Cooper Kupp is the number one option. And again, Orlovsky made a good point. The number one option in your offense really determines.
We're going to bring him up again.
Dude, he's the only one on that garbage network besides Greenberg that actually defends Baker Mayfield.
Yeah,
he's
but it's still that garbage. It's still that garbage network.
Yeah, I know, but still.
Anyway.
And hold on, Orlovsky defends him with actual knowledge, not with, Stephen A. So he explained how number one is determined by what the defense gives you. How if it's cover 2, it's this guy. Cover 3, it's this guy. If it's cover 4, cover 1, the whole thing. Cooper Kupp, no matter what the defense has been this year, seems to be Matthew Stafford's first choice. And by the way, Matthew Stafford played with a much better receiver in Detroit than Odell will ever be in Megatron.
That is true, but really outside of Megatron, how much else did Stafford really have during his tenure? Now he's got Kupp. He's actually got a couple of good tight ends. He's got Robert Woods to be able to throw the deep ball. He's got more options.
Yeah, and
he's also got a coach who actually knows what he's doing. That's the most important factor.
I agree with you. I will give you my take on this. I'll let you have the mic for a minute. I believe this will blow up in the Rams' face. And it's not that I'm an Odell hater, because I've never been an Odell hater. I've always liked him. And I thought the way he handled himself up until this season in Cleveland showed me he had grown. And maybe it was just Jarvis telling him to shut his mouth. But as a Rams fan, someone's telling you they see it blowing up in your face. Do you agree with that, or do you think this can get it done?
I'm buying the guy a beer for being absolutely right. I see this. This is not going to end well. When I saw that, I got excited, and I kid you not, for literally as long as it took you to take that sip, that final sip, that's basically how long it took me to actually be like, okay, we got Odell. And then it's like, we got Odell.
Yeah.
Really?
Really.
And I'm sorry to sound like the Miz right now, but really?
Hey, Miz is from Cleveland. It's good.
That is true. He's from Normandy.
But he's a phenomenal talent. He is a great wide receiver. He's even a decent dude from what I understand.
We're going to put a pin in that for 1 second. Go ahead. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
Well, what I was saying, for everything you've heard from his teammates, he's a decent dude. What is his deal? In very plain English, what's his deal?
Okay, I'm actually glad that you said that. It's somebody brought this up. I was listening to sports talk radio here, and then I sat back and I thought about it. They brought up the point, but they didn't really expand on it. And there's a lot of truth to this. After that one-handed grab against Dallas on prime time, what has he done?
Nothing.
He's made a career out of it.
In his defense, that Giants team was terrible.
That Giants team was terrible, yes, but the Cowboys were certainly no. I've been to a couple of Browns games since he's actually joined the franchise. There's a reason why you always see him. And you follow the Browns on Twitter, and going back to the first episode, Browns Twitter is the most toxic place on planet Earth, at least in cyberspace. That's why every time you see training footage of Odell, he's always doing one-handed grabs, or he's doing between the leg grabs, or he's actually just practicing this. Sure, he's got massive, massive hands. Problem is, it doesn't make a difference if you're not going over the middle, if you're actually not running the proper route. He's open, but he's not running the proper route. He's improvising, and these are even when Baker's not moving the pocket, like when he excels. Sure, he's probably a great character guy, but he's a quarterback killer. He killed a relationship with, let's be honest, Eli Manning, on paper, not a Hall of Famer, beating Tom Brady twice in the Super Bowl, Hall of Famer. I will take to my grave that if Bernie beats the Broncos one of those 3 years, Bernie would already be in the Hall of Fame.
I would have to look at Bernie's numbers. Prime time. I'm getting up out of the shot too. It's a metal chair I'm sitting on. Needed a cushion. My back is shot, dude. Coaching your favorite sport with my son 10 years ago, I was telling the kids, if the ball's going over your head, turn and run. Well, the coach's kids game, I backpedaled, felt like that. I damaged the muscles that go from the rib cage down to the pelvis. And in 2018, it did this.
Oh.
I walked around with one leg shorter than the other for about a week.
Wow.
Yeah, so I go to the chiropractor every couple months, and he uses machines on me and loosens it up, and I'm good. But it hurts. So
now I'm going to think about you whenever I actually start seeing like those chiropractic videos that are taking over YouTube anymore.
No, he doesn't. I don't get cracked. It's actual. He's working on the muscles. The only time he cracks me is like a carpal tunnel, but the nerve is actually compressed all the way from up here down, and he pops the neck, and it relieves some of the tension. Guy used to drink.
I shudder when I shudder when I pop my knee with that same injury when we were in high school.
Oh my God!
Where Frankie blew my knee out playing hockey.
I remember that. Still surprised you didn't hit him with a stick.
I was a goaltender. I didn't have a choice. I couldn't stand.
I said hit him with a stick. I didn't say.
Well, that's actually what blew the knee out in the first place. The stick got no ball, all knee.
Oh, hurts me.
And the sticks back then. And the sticks back then. Remember, if they weren't all wood, they were composite. The aluminum shaft with the solid wood blade, unlike the fiberglass that they are now.
Oh, that's right.
This was back in the 90s, dude. Yeah.
This was pushing 30 years ago. Dude, we're getting old fast. So I think it's good riddance. I think the Browns offense is plays over players as opposed to what you normally want, and that's players over plays. Just right. Baker's performance on Sunday. Was it flashy? No. But Orlovsky made another great point. He was 17 of 24?
Yes. Something in there. I know he only missed 7.
So, yeah, and by the way, 4 of them were
three
or 4 were throwaways.
Yep.
So because it was ended up being 17 of 21, and one of them was a drop. He only missed 1 throw all day, which is what, with all due respect to the national media, that's what Baker Mayfield is. He is not Brett Favre. He's not Drew Brees. He's not Aaron Rodgers. Baker Mayfield is a prototypical system quarterback who, when the system is working, is great. And then when he needs to improvise, can make plays, but you cannot count on him to be the improvisational wizard that a Rodgers or a Mahomes or even a Drew Brees at times had to be. Moving forward, now, big statement win in Cincinnati. You get the loss by the Ravens last night, which is tremendously huge for this team because now, remember, the next 4 weeks in there is your bye sandwiched in between the 2 games against the Ravens. You have to split. You cannot lose both, and you maybe even have to win 2.
You want to split you want to play the schedule game real quick? You want to take 2 minutes and do this?
Yes.
You got 8 left. Where do you see them going? You're at 5-4 right now. According to the latest standings, you are at 9th right now, and you only have the tiebreaker over Denver, who's now falling back to earth. According to my notes, you have to leapfrog the Chiefs and the Patriots to get in.
Well, you're going to have the tiebreaker after winning this weekend against New England.
Correct.
All right, so
and the Chiefs, I think, and I still think the Chiefs are going to find their legs before long.
So let's talk about the last 8 real quick. You got at home at New England this weekend. Home for the Lions.
If they don't win that game by at least 3 scores, can we send them to Canada?
Dude, this isn't college football. Win by a point. Who gives a damn? At Baltimore, bye week, home for Baltimore.
You got to get a split. Yep.
The artist formerly known as Chucky. Like what I did there?
Well, yeah. It's they are right now. The Raiders are 5-3. They are a half game better than you are because they're 1 fewer in the loss column. With all this turmoil that's happened with them in the last few weeks, I actually see the Raiders actually finishing below 500 at this point. You don't have your coach. You're in shambles right now. You can't stay out of the news. And keep in mind, with the 2 things that happened with them in the last couple of weeks, there is not one member of the 2020 draft class still on their roster.
Wow.
All 7 are gone or in prison. Because they didn't have a 5th, 6th, or 7th round pick. They had 7 picks in the first 4 rounds, and not one of them is with the organization any longer. Not even a practice squad.
That's
crazy. Where I actually heard that? Rover.
Really?
Yeah.
So, Raiders, the Christmas Day game, which I think is a nice touch, up in Green Bay. In Pittsburgh, home for the Bengals.
I have the loss on Christmas Day. There's just something about it because the Pack are playing very well, I think.
I have them winning Christmas Day.
I'm going to take the loss there, but I have wins over Pittsburgh and Cincinnati because you could beat both teams now. And I think remember, keep in mind last year, and this is where I got them at 6-2 and finishing 11-6 overall. Far cry from where we actually had them at the start of the season when we did this back in right after Labor Day or like late August or whenever it was. Remember last year in the Cincinnati game was the turning point. Odell goes out on the 3rd play. The Browns go off. This year, Odell's gone. Browns beat the Bengals, beat them badly, and I think they're going to go on a run. Here's where actually I think this is the turning point. Baker gets pissed off, then Baker goes off.
I agree with you. Here's why I think they beat Green Bay, though. Green Bay has trouble stopping the run. That whole stable will be there Christmas Day.
We hope.
So if we're projecting out, I think they win this weekend on the strength of the defense. I got a feeling Myles Garrett's going to go Mac hunting.
Remember the last time they actually played a rookie quarterback this season? Granted, it was his first ever start. You had 9 sacks.
Yes, but I think Newman's offensive line is more better.
Yeah, but you also had basically a rookie playing this week and you sacked him 5 times and forced three turnovers. And also, why does the NFL decide turnover on downs is not counted in the turnover category? I've always questioned that.
Why does the NFL allow Tony Correnti to be an official?
Can we bring back? We've got Hockley. Can we also bring back his dad just for his, just to be able to hear the commentators talking about his massive guns and him explaining everything so well? Pull him out of retirement.
Pat McAfee went as Hockley one year for Halloween.
Three shows, 3 McAfee references. We're consistent.
Listen. Between the wrestling and the fact that he is maybe outside of the jungle, the best trash talk sports show out there. And yes, that was a Jim Rome reference. So
don't get me started on Romy. I love Romy. I was a jungle insider for 5 years.
I love the jungle. The Mark Grace 20-some years ago, the Mark Grace
Swamp Busters, Elk. Still the greatest interview ever is Elkington.
Oh God, yeah, him and Chris Everett. Anyway.
You leave my quarterback from my childhood alone.
That was the funniest thing I've ever seen.
It was, but it was on TV, and I didn't see it until years later because I didn't have cable back then.
Don't call me that again. I bet you I will. So I have them beating New England this weekend. Obviously, beating Detroit shouldn't be an issue. Yeah, I think you need to split with Baltimore. I don't think you can do anything but that. You got the Sunday night game on the 28th of this month, and then you have a 1:00 game on Zachary's 18th birthday. That's pretty cool. Then you get the Raiders the next weekend. You got the 6 days later, you got the Christmas Day game against the Packers. On the 3rd of January, home for the Steelers. On the 9th, you're home for Cincinnati. You've got to sweep Cincinnati. You got to split with Baltimore. You got to win the Pittsburgh game. And that's 3 right there. I think you beat the Lions. You beat the Patriots. I'm going to go out on a limb and say they beat the Packers. I think they end up at 12-5. I really do.
Which, if memory serves correct, isn't that where you had them at the start of the season?
Yes.
I think I had them 14-3. You had them 12-5.
I had them 12-5 because I thought they would find a trap game, which ended up being Arizona.
Right.
But no, I think if they can run the ball, they can beat Green Bay. And Green Bay's offensive line, well, it's been decent. You got Miles still healthy, and now Clowney's still healthy. You're going to have a hard time. And if he's there, I think Denzel Ward can shut down Devontae Adams.
Yeah, I haven't watched enough of Green Bay, and that's actually why I'm going with them because I'm only seeing, I'm only getting my Green Bay information. Rodgers, outside of football aside, I'm only getting out of box scores and highlights with them because who was it? I can't remember if it was Kilborn or Rich Eisen used to say, as we all know, games are not played on paper; they're played inside television sets.
Kilborn.
I almost forgot that he used to host the Late Late Show before Craig Ferguson.
I almost forgot he hosted the Daily Show.
Yes.
Jon Stewart took the moment of Zen to another level.
Yeah.
So let's spend the last few minutes we got, the last 10 minutes, on the topic we said would be the main topic tonight. And it didn't become the main topic because, quite honestly, the CFP pissed me off. And the Browns have decided to start playing and got rid of Odell. And that is these guys.
Your Cleveland Cavaliers.
Oh, here we go. So, Bobby's got Cavaliers PJs.
This is the only piece of Cavalier merchandise I have. Anything else I had was from the finals runs in the finals run in 15, and I didn't want to wear the 15 shirt, and I never actually bothered to buy anything from the 16 title run.
I have the locker room hat from the 16 title run, and I have, because Fanatics did big guy stuff, because Nike and Adidas don't make big guy stuff. I have the hats from all 4 runs. The one from the last one, it's the cats have been laying on it, but it's a maroon hat with the finals logo right here to go with my locker room T-shirt from when they won the Eastern Conference. I have the finals hat from 17, and I have the championship hat from 16. And I think my parents found me a finals hat from 15 at like Mark's or something. But they're all in the back.
That sounds about right. Yeah,
they're all in the back of the door. And by the way, I've worn this probably most days since I got it.
It looks good on you, and again, you are more than welcome, buddy.
Thank you. So let's talk about the 7-5 Cleveland Cavaliers, who, by the way, as I mentioned, are playing right now against the Detroit Pistons. What are we doing? Detroit. Where is it? Scores. Oh, that game's over. It's 90-67 good guys with 4 minutes left.
Boom.
So now, 13 games in, the Cleveland Cavaliers are 8-5, right in the mix in the Eastern Conference. Now, there's a long way to go. I get it. But are you surprised at the 8-5 start? Or are you more surprised it should be 9-4?
With the Wizards game?
Oh, that pissed me off.
To backtrack, let me actually start on the Wizards game. No, because let's also keep in mind the Wizards right now are the best team in the East right now at 8-3. But the Wizards and Cavs are both overachieving. The reason why it's not surprising to me is because if you look at those two, the Cavs have much more sustainability to keep this going than the Wizards do. The Cavs are a very, very good young ball club. They actually did this right. Even Colin Sexton aside, we'll come back to him here in a second. I don't think the Cavs are a 45 or 50 win team. They're certainly not championship caliber. 35 wins and getting into the play-in tournament, I'd be happy with that.
I think they're a 500 team. I think they're a 41-41 team. I will say this. They're not championship caliber yet.
Yes.
And that's the big word. Because let me put this in perspective for mine. I've been following the Cavaliers since the day you told me the Knicks traded Patrick Ewing.
Yeah.
Remember how angry I was?
Yep. There are a few times in life I've actually ever seen this man turn beet red like that, folks.
I was pissed. So those were the Brevin Knight, Bobby Sura, Zydrunas Ilgauskas Cavaliers.
Chris Mim days, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chris Mim holds a little bit of a place in my heart just because he wore my jersey number. So,
okay, I give you that. So I've been following this team for a long time. I've been through the 2 stays of LeBron. I've been through 5 runs to the finals. I've been through the championship we all craved. You obviously more than me, being the native Clevelander, me having adopted it as my hometown when I moved there. This is the most talented roster that I have seen that LeBron James has not been a part of in Cavaliers history. And I've been following this team. I moved to Cleveland in 1993, so pushing 30 years. I think the depth on this roster, you ready for this? Matches the depth the Elo, Price, and Brad Daugherty teams had that used to take Michael Jordan to the brink of elimination and then find a way to lose.
Yeah, just because Michael finally actually started waking up and realizing he used Michael.
Yeah. You have your best big man since Brad Daugherty in Jared Allen. You have a backcourt when healthy, because we got to get into the injury with Colin Sexton. Although with what Ricky Rubio did to the Knicks the other night, that was beautiful.
Yeah, but also let's keep in mind that Ricky Rubio is actually a role player at this stage of his career. He's not going to come out and do that every time.
No, he's not, but I think he can do it every now and again to the point where he can make up for some of Sexton being gone.
Let's come back because I researched the Sexton injury, and I actually have some pretty good news about that. Not in terms of Sexton himself, but just in general. But go ahead and finish your point.
I think Darius Garland is the best true point guard we've had in a long time. And I'm putting Kyrie in that. I don't think Kyrie was a true point guard. Kyrie was a scorer. That was what Kyrie did.
Yeah.
And now Kyrie's a joke. You're talking about having Mobley, who is awesome. Isaac Okoro is great. You have the depth pieces like Ricky
And
Rubio.
Okoro's coming off the bench right now.
See, that's
as
what
a
I'm
senior
shocked at.
player.
That's what I'm shocked about. Not that he's coming off the bench. Here's what I'm shocked at. Not that he's coming off the bench, but that Bickerstaff has basically said, I don't care where you drafted him. I don't care what you did. We are winning this way, and this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And I love him, by the way.
I actually have to agree. I didn't even think of that. It's because he's got starter potential, but he's coming off the bench. Because the great thing about the Cavs right now, and this has been on message boards and Twitter comments and YouTube comments and everything, the Cavs right now are running two really good point guards. And if you throw Rubio in there, you actually interchange that. And you've got three. And if you add Kevin Love in there, you've got four guys over 6'10" in your front court rotation. And all of them can shoot from anywhere on the floor.
And that's without Taco.
Taco. Damn it, now I want tacos.
I had them the other night.
Chipotle's closed. Damn.
Dude, we had to go gluten-free, and I love that place.
I'm still a Moe's fan because the portions are bigger and a little bit more customizable. Plus, on Monday for Moe's, you get chips and salsa with your burrito, and it's only $6.99.
Dude.
Every Moe's order, you get chips with your order.
So here's what I want to ask you about this Cavaliers team.
Sure.
Are they scrappy enough to make noise?
Absolutely.
I thought you'd say that because they're playing defense.
Absolutely.
Because they're playing defense.
But two of the more unsung guys right now off of their bench are I can't think of his name right now. It's eluding me. Dean Wade.
I love Dean Wade.
I'm quickly following with. I was just going to bring up Dylan Windler because remember, Windler missed his entire rookie season. I watched Windler that entire NCAA tournament. That boy can shoot from anywhere that's painted.
Yes, he can. Yes, he can.
So now,
roster.
So yeah, I've actually got it right here. Wade's a power forward, so he's another 6'9" guy. Windler's a 6'6" shooting guard, so you can rotate him in and out. You can get quality minutes out of Denzel Valentine. Chetty's a small forward who can actually, and we're forgetting Chetty. Chetty can even play a 2 if you needed to.
I think Jetty's better suited as a 2. But let me get into Jetty because I am wearing, for those who don't know, I am wearing the Larry Nance jersey right now. I think this team would be better with 22 on the court. But no. That was the last NBA trade that made me want to punch someone. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think Jetty at a 2 is going to be scary because if you got to play for Sexton, because Jetty can play the D, but Jetty can hit the 3. And he can play well off the ball. He's one of the few players I've seen that have played well with LeBron and kept it going when LeBron left.
Yes.
And that's everywhere LeBron has gone. Because let me tell you something. Mario Chalmers was never the same when LeBron left.
Yeah.
Kyrie took off from him and it's never been the same. Jetty has gotten steadily better each year.
He's not. He's not going to be. They drafted him thinking he was going to be maybe half as good as LeBron was and be able to keep it going. He's maybe not at half. He may not be at that potential, but in this system right now, everyone's doing a little something.
See, and that's just it. They have embraced the system and they have embraced being the underdog in this. And I love what I'm watching. I don't get to watch as much because right now it's a lot of Coco Melon and Baby Shark and that stuff.
Right.
But when I do get to watch, I love watching him play. If I get another jersey, it's a 16. Plain and simple. It just went final. Darius Garland went 21-2-7, 98-76 Cavaliers.
Nice.
I don't like the 7. I think he needs to dish the ball more.
Say that one more time.
I think he needs to dish the ball more. 21-2-7.
Yeah.
I'd like to see 8 or 9 a night.
Yeah, but still, with Sexton not being in your lineup for a little bit here, so sometimes you got to offset some of his scoring a little bit. So if he can actually push the play and why is my phone pinging again? If he can actually push the play and up his scoring, maybe 5 or 6 points a game more, I'd actually be glad if he could take away a couple of assists. Keep this also in mind with the Cavs of how young they are. They only have 2 players over 30 on their roster.
Kevin Love and Ricky Rubio.
At least I should. Yeah, Rubio 31, Love is 33. Ed Davis is also on your roster, and he's 33, and he's 32. But Davis is actually not dressed most games.
Yeah. So we're just over an hour. Get me to the injury stuff, and then tell me what's coming up on the blog, and we'll wrap her up.
Absolutely. Very, very quick question, trivia question here for you. I actually was going over things. Let's actually also think about, I was going to bring this up because I thought the Cavs could be so much better if it wasn't for that bloated contract of Kevin Love. You keep in mind here that the Cavs are $21 million over the cap right now. There's only one team in the NBA that is under the $112 million cap. Can you name them?
The New York Knicks. That's under the 112? Don't tell me it's the Lakers.
And they're not just under the 112, they are $30 million under it.
Don't tell me it's the Lakers.
The Oklahoma City Thunder.
Oh, well, I should have known.
Who sold off everything and are tanking. I actually have the salary cap numbers right here. Yeah, the Warriors are $71 million over the cap right now. The Nets are $64 million over the cap. The Lakers are the 4th highest. They are $52 million over the cap. The Timberwolves are $52 million over the cap and have not made the playoffs in a decade.
What?
I don't know how well this is going to show up.
No, you don't need to show it. I believe you. I believe you. I'm just really the Timberwolves?
Yes. Yeah. And at least for them, the Karl Anthony Towns thing is running out pretty soon, but they got to actually sign him because other than that, they've got nothing. They're going to be an Oklahoma City spot in a few years. The good news is with Colin Sexton is that with the meniscus tear, even if there's surgery and rehab, we're only looking at 4 to 6 weeks, and he's already been out a week, which means you're probably going to get him back by the first of the year.
Okay. And listen, January is when you start that stretch drive because God knows the NBA playoffs last 3 months.
Yeah. They're like the basketball playoffs.
Okay, episode 3, and we've had a basketball reference.
I need to go back and watch it now. Such a great movie. One of my favorite spoof movies.
We had a dog reference at home before.
That is one of the few Kevin Smith movies I have not seen.
Did you see the newest one?
The Jay and Silent Bob reboot.
Yeah.
I did not, because I think it was like it was like only on HBO or Amazon
Something
Prime
like
or
that.
something. And I don't
gonna
have
tell
that.
you, I'm gonna tell you something that happened. They have a cutscene where Matt Damon turns around and goes, "Hello, I'm Loki, the Angel of Death from Dogma. You've all been wondering what I've been doing since the movie ended." He goes, "Oh, and if your children are looking at you saying that's not Tom Hiddleston, I did this in the '90s when it was cool, and I didn't need a fake British accent." Dead. I'll send you that clip too.
I think the Cavs might. You're going to see a little bit of a period here where the Cavs kind of come back down to earth. Though they're now, would you say, with the win, they're 8-5, but they actually they've got back-to-back games here this weekend with Boston. At least they're home, but then they get Brooklyn. I actually have it here somewhere. Here it is. After tonight, it's home tomorrow against the Celtics, home again on Monday against the Celtics. Then you go at Brooklyn, home to Golden State, home to Brooklyn, home to Phoenix. That's 4 losses right there.
I don't think so.
So
I think they can scrap defensively and beat one of those teams. I think they're going to go 1-3, but I think they can win one game.
Yeah, you'll actually get a trap game in there somewhere.
Is Brooklyn playing that good since James Harden can't lean into a 3 anymore?
Yeah, but even if you don't have James Harden, you still actually have to get Kevin Durant.
Hit him in the knee. Sorry.
Very, very true.
I would never advocate injuring someone. So tell us what's coming up on the blog so we can wrap her up here, sir.
Earlier tonight, we actually had an incident last night we had an incident in the Vancouver Canucks Colorado Avalanche game where another malicious, potentially like criminal act could have nearly occurred with another swinging of a stick at somebody's head. So that went up tonight, and that went up about 20 minutes before air, and we got another one coming up about 20 minutes after we're done that I've already got written and in the can of the scrap last night between the Utah Jazz and the Indiana Pacers, and there's an underlying problem in the NBA, and it's not the salary cap and it's not super teams. Want to take a guess what it is?
No, I'd like to read it.
NBA players can't fight.
Well, yeah. Neither can baseball players. You ever see one of them fights?
I don't know. I actually touch on the fact that Rougned Odor got one of the best clean shots I can ever remember in a fight less than 5 years ago. The last time we had a decent NBA fight was a Malice at the Palace, and that was the Players Against Fans. By the way, if go on Netflix and go into their, I can't remember what exactly they call it, but they did a whole they call it Untold. They did an hour-long retrospect on that, and it's one of the best documentaries I've seen in years.
I've heard about it, and people have told me to say it. So speaking of fights,
it was fantastic.
I have to watch it. So speaking of fights, I just brought up baseball. Let's do this. Hats off to the Braves. First world championship since 1995. And one of the true good guys got a ring in Freddie Freeman.
Yes.
I love him.
You and I talked about it.
He needs to stay in Atlanta. He needs to stay in Atlanta. They went from, guys who left Atlanta when they shouldn't have, like Glavine and Maddox. You had Chipper. Now you have Freddie Freeman. I think he's got to stay in Atlanta. So coming up on,
let's also keep in mind that they won a championship without arguably their best player.
Not even arguably, he is their best player. Acuna's top 3 in the National League.
I just hope he's actually ready in time for spring training because unlike in other sports, that's a really, really difficult injury to rehab that fast for baseball.
Especially in the outfield.
Yes.
With the immediate acceleration you have to do and everything. It's not like cutting like in the NBA, but it's immediate motion. So here's what's coming up for Big Rican. I am going to get the Mets wrap-up episode and my prediction for the hot stove coming up very soon. Hopefully next week. 2 weeks from tonight. Today is Friday the 12th of November. Friday night, the 26th, live event, Facebook and YouTube. The fanatical preview of the 117th playing of the game between that team up north and Ohio State. Coming to you next 2 weeks from tomorrow, the 27th, at the Big House, which, by the way, if anybody remembers, Michigan punked out last year. I am not going full funeral procession for Jim Harbaugh. Probably not in good taste. But I'm going to read a eulogy. So I haven't decided on some of the format, and I will let you know off the air because I think we may have some guests rotating in and out. Keep your schedule clear.
Do I want to know?
Keep your schedule clear.
You also do realize that I'm a cord cutter, so I don't get a chance to watch as many games as I like. I'm a lot of the times limited to what's on ESPN Plus and highlights.
Yeah, I might give you a sign-in for a Fox subscription for that one.
I'll figure something out.
It's Gus and Joel too, which is the best. And as always, Big Rican can be found here on both YouTube and on YouTube, Big Rican on Sports. The Anchor is now giving me the chance to be not only an audio podcast, but also a video podcast. So this will be the first episode that is a video podcast that goes on Anchor, Google, Spotify, Breaker, Anchor, Pocket Cast, Radio Public. Ask Alexa, play Big Rican. Jim, next month, we'll talk a little Fat Man in the red suit. We'll talk a little football. We'll talk a little playoff.
Absolutely, and actually, I'm glad you brought up the fat guy in the red suit here. Well, it's starting to get us into that mentality. I'm not going to actually see the rest of the Big Rican and the Wise Guys audience. So everyone out there, have yourself a very, very safe, happy, and very, very filling Thanksgiving holiday coming up.
Amen. And you may see them. Told you, keep your schedule clear. Black Friday.
I'm off work.
This is the Wise Guy signing off. Jimmy, I'll see you next month.
Love you, buddy. Talk to you guys soon.